Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Beam's weekly BEAD office hours. We appreciate you guys taking the time out of your afternoon to join us. We do have a couple of things that we want to cover today, and then, as usual, we'll have some time at the end for additional questions. If you do have any questions that come up while we're talking, please just type those into the chat box. Please go ahead and give us your name and your organization that you're with, just in case we need to follow up with you after the call. Um, I think that's all of the housekeeping that I have for today. So I will go ahead and turn things over to Lindsay Howard. She's going to start us off.
Thanks, Angel. Yeah, hey everybody. I know last week we had several things to go over. I think this one's going to be a little bit shorter before we open it up for general Q&A. So there's a couple things Angel and I will walk through, but as you'll have questions, feel free to put something in the chat like Angel said. So I know last week we went over a little bit in depth with some of the ways to fill out that location template that is to be submitted with your application. There's an additional template that we created to go along with that will be required if in your location template and in your application you are requesting to not serve a particular location or locations on the basis of that location or locations being ultra high cost. So if you are going to exclude any locations for that reason, there's just an extra file that will need to be submitted with your application. So I'll just briefly walk you guys through that. It did go out with the weekly email to eligible applicants last Friday, so everyone should have a copy, but just want to walk through it together briefly. So the first page is an instructions page, just noting the purpose for it and that it will be required with your application if you were to use this ultra high cost location justification exclusion. And then the information on the second tab is what you'll have to complete. So the location ID column should just be identical to the location IDs that are marked with that exclusion justification in your location template. Just make sure they tie one for one. We're asking that you provide a blended mileage rate cost per location for what per mile, a blended mileage rate per mile, what it would cost to build to that particular location, and then an incremental distance to the nearest serviceable location. So if the nearest serviceable location for this particular location ID is 25 miles away, please provide us with that mileage and then what that rate would be, and then it will auto calculate what that cost per location would be based for that ultra high cost exclusion in the location template, and I can download an example if necessary. Let me see if I have one already pulled up. There is a column that you're asked to fill out for cost per location. I have it right here. I can share as well. And so we would just ask that the cost per location, even though you're not planning on serving it in your application because you're excluding it for that undefined exclusion code, that cost per location cell still be filled out so that we can compare it to that other file, and it will be part of our review process when looking at those ultra high cost locations. So that's how to fill it out. If you have questions, let us know, but you can also refer to this instructions page. The other thing that went out with that email on Friday was a request.
Before you get to that, can I add something real quick?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Sure. So, and thank you, Lindsay, for y'all building that template. That will be extremely helpful as we review these applications. We realize that this may not be the best way for every instance to gather the information that justifies the exclusion code of an ultra high cost. However, our purpose was to develop something that was identical so that we are performing the same comparison on all of the applications that we receive that use that justification. We do, like Lindsay said, require that to be uploaded at the time the application is made. It can be uploaded in that same dialog box or upload box that is part of your application where you upload your location template. So you can include both of those files in that upload box. We did confirm that that works as intended. That is not to say that we may not request additional information from you during our review. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to accept someone's request to remove a location from an application is up to BEAM to determine. So just because you submit this information does not mean that we necessarily will accept that, or that, and also be prepared that we may ask for additional information. Just wanted to give those couple of caveats. And then, of course, if you have any additional questions about this topic, please feel free to put them in the chat box or send us an email and we can cover it on next week's call. But that's really all I had to add for that one. Thanks, Lindsay.
No, that was very good clarification, Angel. Thank you for that. Okay, lastly, from my end, something in addition that went out with last Friday's email was the request for all eligible applicants to update their Appendix B. If you need a little bit of a refresher on what Appendix B was, it was submitted with each eligible entity's letter of intent process back in that November, December timeframe when those were accepted. So Appendix B was just a listing of existing broadband projects, not just in Mississippi, but across the states that are under your particular entity, and I can share it. And again, everyone has completed this. We're just asking for a little bit of a refresh now that other states have made preliminary BEAD awards and other official awards as well. So this is the template. It's the exact same one. Nothing has changed. The only thing that we would ask is that if you already gave us, 10 projects within this template that was submitted with your letter of intent process, if you'll just add 11 through whichever ones needed to be added. We want a full comprehensive list of all of the projects now that it's been a little close to 6 months or so since this was last submitted, just to get a refresh so that we have a good idea of where you stand with other broadband projects that you are currently administering. So if you could get us a comprehensive list, KB Angel, you might have to remind me the time frame that we were going to request this be sent back to us in.
We are asking if at all possible that this be returned to us by the end of the week. So I do realize we've got a bit of a lighter crowd today than we have on previous webinars. So we in the BEAM office will probably send out our follow-up email tomorrow instead of waiting until later in the week. And we'll note that in the email also that we are requesting this information be returned to us by the end of the week.
Yes, thank you. And if we would still like for them, Angel, to send that directly to our team through my email address, we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll send my email address for those who may or may not have it in the chat here. But that is all I had from my end, Angel, unless you had anything else to add.
I think that's it. So if you guys will just be on the lookout for that follow-up email that is coming out tomorrow, that will come out tomorrow from Ashley. It will have that reminder in there. We're also, I'm sure you noticed, recording this front part of the webinar like we did last week, so that all of these points that we've already discussed will be available for your reference in the future. So I think with that being said, I'm going to end the recording now, and then we can go to the question and answer